All right, so we are back with Costa Mana. This is Avery,
Matt.
And Cody.
and today we actually don't have a format. We're just gonna talk about our campaigns going on and everything like that. But before we start, I wanted to let everyone know that we're going to be starting up a Magic card store that you can find on TCG under Snapcast. We should have all the new cards that are coming out with every set from here on. In addition to that, we're hoping to get some shirts up within, who knows, a couple weeks. But it depends on when this is actually put out there for people. So why don't we start off? Which one of you guys want to start off talking about your campaign and what's going on right now? Cody?
Sure. Alright, so last session we left off with the party traveling to a sacred holy site in order to get more information about a mystical medallion that they had come across. The party had done a bit of research while they were there, looking through some old tomes, trying to gather more information about where this medallion came from, when a series of earthquakes started to cause the temple to lose its integrity. Upon that, the party had found out that there is a tomb not far from here that seems to be the origin of these earthquakes. So they decided to investigate it before any more damage was done to the holy site. It was kind of a shorter session, but the party entered the tomb and came across the guardian of the tomb, which was a earth genie that had been under a magical slumber. During his sleep, his snoring had caused the small tremors that had been happening in the area, causing the damage to the temple. Party didn't want to fuck with the genie, and since he was under a sleep spell, they figured they didn't have to deal with him too much. They continued to investigate the rest of the tomb and found that it had been recently occupied by a pair of yakmen who seemed to be on a mission to desecrate it.
Yak men, are they like men covered in yak hair?
Pretty much. They are
Like
Kieran.
80s bit metal hair
Think like
everywhere.
minotaurs, but yak.
Okay.
They're kind of a evil race that likes to. They actually have power over like the element of Earth itself to a degree. They can summon these Earth elementals, and they can actually have a lot of power over Earth genies. So the party got into a fight with them after they set off a trap, a bit of a warning that the Yakmen had set up in case anyone tried to disturb them. Got into a big fight. The fight went for a while. Party members going down, but they were pretty resilient and they didn't lose anyone, and they got up and they finally defeated them. But it's probably a good 2-hour battle.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a pretty long one.
Did you feel like it was getting bogged down at all?
Yeah, I think
Because that's a long time.
towards the end they finally finished off the Yakmen, but they had an Earth Elemental to deal with, and I don't think there was any more real threat of them going down at that point. It just took him a while to chip down the Earth Elemental because he had resistance to non-magical attacks and stuff.
Sure.
So it took him a while to chip him down. But after they defeated finally the Earth Elemental, they found the bones of this Imin Suhel, who is the praetor of that temple. He is the creator of this holy shrine. After he was buried away, he had a genie, an earth genie, that he had freed centuries ago that had promised to watch after him after he died. So he inhibited one of the players and kind of started to reveal more of the secrets of what happened. So the Geomancers, which seem to be the big bad guy in this campaign at the moment, were trapped away long ago. There was 9 of them. 8 of them were defeated by Imin Suhel and his companions, but the 9th, Tisan, was too powerful to be destroyed. So they trapped him, but it came at a cost. Several of the party members had to sacrifice themselves to help seal away Teeson. And so Immin Suhel kind of made it his life's journey to wipe out any information about the Geomancers and to kind of go and desecrate all their work. And he promised this would be his life's work to kind of pay his party members who sacrificed themselves. He's a paladin of the gods Salon. So he is a holy man. He's very devout to his religion. But so they started finding out more information. They found out that the talisman is the key to defeating Teeson if she was ever to be awoken. So now they know they have this key and they have to go somewhere and deal with this. They're told that the location lays in Tabadur, which is in the ruined kingdoms on the other side of the continent. So the party members kind of have figured out they are probably charter some kind of ship and try to get around to the other side of the continent. It's a lot safer than trying to travel all the way through the desert. They also found out that them coming together was fate. It wasn't chance. And pretty much Immin Suhel let them know that they are the Lions of tomorrow, and him and his group are the Lions of yesterday. So he kind of tells them that fate has brought them all here to this point. So that's kind of where we left off. They actually went and awoken the genie afterwards and found out that the genie was an ally and would have helped them in the battle possibly if they would have awoken him. But I think it was smart on their half to not waken him in case he was an enemy.
Was he from West Philadelphia, born and raised?
Born and raised, yes. No, but he did offer them a small wish to repay them for doing the job that he could not do. And they actually just had him repair the holy shrine that had been damaged. And so I thought that was pretty admirable of them to use their minor wish on that.
Sure. Yeah, that's definitely a selfless
wish.
wish.
I was a little worried going in offering them a wish. It was
yeah.
I was limiting the wish. I wasn't giving him full spectrum. They're
I want
level
unlimited
4.
wishes.
Yeah, they're level 4. I wasn't going to give them that. But it was a limited wish. They had some possibilities of stuff they could have done. And he would have done the best to his ability.
Sure.
But I thought that was cool that they decided to have him repair the shrine. So now they're just making their way back to Kabir, and I think they're probably going to end up chartering a ship and setting sail pretty soon.
What are the players that play? Like, what are they playing?
So we have a few different players. A couple of them are in and out, but we have the main cast consists of right now a druid. He's human. We have an Aasimar sorcerer / cleric. We have a Kenku cleric, and we have a Goliath paladin, and a tiefling warlock. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Matt, what's going on in your game?
So much. Last session was pretty awesome.
And really quick, before I'm not meaning to interrupt you, Cody, what is your game set in the world? We're gonna treat this as day one, even though we talked about everyone's thing before. So, what setting are you using?
So I'm using a somewhat of an Arabian Nights style setting. Most of it's confined to the continent of Ramal, which is a continent in a homebrew world that me and Avery and a few other people are working on.
Right.
It's your typical desert continent.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, go ahead. What world are you in, and then what's going on?
So we are in Faerun, which is we're running the Lost Mines of Phandelver starter box set from Wizards of the Coast. It's the Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition starter box set. And our last session, the group had picked up. They left Phandalin and were headed towards the ruined town of Thunder Tree, which is just about east of Neverwinter on the edge of Neverwinter Woods. And they were seeking out some information from a druid whose name was Redoth. They're looking for the location of Cragmaw Castle, which is where they believe Gundren Rockseeker is. a dwarf that originally commissioned them at the very beginning of the adventure to escort a load of supplies from Neverwinter to the town of Phandalin, and as all good adventures go, nothing that starts out ever goes well. And it's been adversities ever since. So we've been talking a lot through text messages throughout in between game sessions. And my forest gnome artificer sends me a message and says, "Hey, my character's been thinking a lot about what we've been doing lately and doesn't really align with his morals very well. He's got a girl back at home. He's trying to win her love, and he's already gone down once and had to be not resurrected but revived, and the group just seems to be sending him down an ever perilous path." And he's like, the character wants to leave the group. He wants to go back home. So I was like, already, I was like, okay, this is really cool. It's going to throw a solid curveball to the rest of the group. They're not going to expect it. So I says, all right, how do you want this to go down? And he basically tells me that he leaves a note on the stump of the camp during his watch for rounds at night. And basically says, yada, 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 I'm taking off, got this girl back home, leaves some of his belongings for everyone. He's an artificer, and he's imbued the paladin's weapon with a magical weapon, and that's one of his 3 abilities that he can cast out. And he told the paladin that for as long as I live, I will retain this spell on your weapon. So the paladin's going to have just a forever +1 magical weapon on this base weapon, so it's going to be cool until he finds a new shiny later on in life.
So you just set it up with you that every morning he casts that spell?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, cool. It's just maintained. So he gets approached by this Fey enchanted squirrel on his rounds, and is basically summoned back to his Fey world where he's from. And he just vanishes. The group wakes up from their camp, and we start the adventure with the 4 of you wake up, and Nyx, our forest gnome, is gone. And instantly the group just goes into chaos. They don't really know what to expect, and it just goes to a total meta level of talking. It's like, what the fuck? Are you breaking up with us? He read off the note that he wrote on the stump, and it was a pretty cool moment. I think everyone at the table was shooken by it, I guess. No one saw it coming. They thought, everything was going good, and he's just like, peace. So he gave me an idea for this alternate character that he wanted to play. Was going to be a fallen cleric who is a warlock, and I won't give any additional information about this character because there's some other things in play.
Nice.
Which I do enjoy, being able to just talk privately with players and create these side channels that work at the same time. So as they're adventuring on, they grab their belongings, and the rest of the 4 of them continue on to Thunder Tree and stumble upon an orc encampment halfway there through the day. And in there they find this naked woman who's about to be assailed upon by a bunch of orcs, and everyone gets to find out how half-orcs are made. And the women of the group were...
when an orc and a woman love each other.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Well, there was no love in this courtship. Luckily, the group busted in and broke it up just in time and found our new 5th player, Red, the female human, passing herself off as a cleric for the time being. They join forces and continue on to Thunder Tree. They meet up with Redoth, the druid, and he gives them the location of Cragmaw Castle quite easily. Our druid has much to talk to him about, as he is also a fellow druid. But he also asks for their help in removing the new dragon visitor to Thunder Tree. And if he if the group assisted him in that they would be escorted to Wayveko Cave personally by him. So the group kind of got together and says, well, Dragon's a little out of it, but we do need to go to Wayveko Cave, and that would be quite handy to be just walked there. So the group decides to go and try and root out this dragon. And one thing leads to another after a dragon.
Yeah. So, you're done with that? With what's going on? Gotta clear your throat there.
Yeah,
There we go.
we can just delete all this shit.
No, it's all good. We'll leave it in.
One thing with the dragon leads to
That's a lot of work to edit
Yeah.
just you drinking water. So
But,
one thing leads to a dragon.
right.
All right.
So the group's sitting outside this door, and the dragon's sleeping inside this tower. The group wants to sneak in there quietly, and they're gonna try and kill this dragon in one solid strike. They're just gonna do a group coordinated effort. They all sneak in there. They all get their timing up and go 1, 2, 3, and bam! All right, sneak attack, surprise round. It happens. They all get their attacks off. They're expecting the dragon to die or fly off or leave at this point. All they've done is just really pissed him off. Our rogue, Dell, sneaks around the backside of the dragon and specifically states, I am going to take my rapier and I'm going to drive it up his ass. Rolls his attack. Guess what he gets?
Nat 20.
Natural one.
Oh, nice.
So when
Yeah.
a player gives you such great detail as to what they're doing, and then they roll terribly, terrible things happen.
Right.
So he goes to stab the dragon in the ass, and he hits, but it just keeps sliding
Yeah.
and sliding, and soon he finds he's shoulder deep in dragon ass, and the sphincter locks.
Wow, nice.
He is now grappled
Yeah.
by the dragon's
Please
ass.
tell me the dragon flew off after that with him attached. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, the group continues to beat on him and pisses the dragon off enough that he's like, I've had enough of this, and flies away with the rogue stuck in his ass.
Oh my gosh.
So we're in totally uncharted territory for the DM here. No idea this was going to come. I figured they would try and parlay with him or
Yeah.
find a non-aggressive action, but they just ran in there and started beating on it. So
Now, when you look at the dragon stat block, they have ass damage figured out on there, don't they?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. So the group ends up taking quite a bit of damage in the kerfuffle, but they do damage him enough to drive him off. So the dragon lifts off and flies and gets up about 40 feet in his turn, and everyone's kind of freaking out player-wise. They don't really know how to handle one of their friends being stuck with the dragon as he flies off. They shoot a bunch of crossbows at the dragon. They're trying to, clip one of its wings and trying to hinder it so that it falls back down to the ground. Meanwhile, the rogue is grappling with it and failing miserably to free himself. He's holding on to his prized possession and refusing to let go of it. And,
Yeah.
and until he releases his grip, it's kind of not
It's
going
kind
to
of stuck up in
kind of
the
stuck
ass.
way up in there. So it's going to take the rogue a couple turns to figure that out. But the dragon continues to fly higher, and he's getting about 90 to 100 feet above the roof line of the tower. And as it's breaking, what do we got here? We have not the bard, but our warlock runs up to the top of the tower and uses command on the dragon. He's going to command it. And I was like, all right. Rolls it. Sweet. Dragon fails the save. What's the command? Stop. Dragon has to obey. Dragon stops what he's doing. Gravity
shit.
takes over.
Yeah.
Great idea. It's gonna mess the dragon up, but you also have your character coming down with it. At that point, the dragon releases, and our rogue falls out, takes his rope out of his backpack, uses his mage hand to tie one end of it to the dragon, one end of it to himself, and he's gonna try and swing out away from the dragon and grapple himself and try and figure out how to save himself at this point, failing miserably in the process. Again, the group spends quite a bit of meta time at the table. I'm not going to rush it at the table. It just kind of, let's just see where this goes. This is crazy territory for all of us. And so everything falls down, and our bard says, "Can I use Thunderwave?" Says, "Okay, what are you trying to Thunderwave?" And she says, "Well, I want to Thunderwave because it creates a cone of air pressure pushing everything away 10 feet."
Yeah.
Okay, so how does this go down? Initiative order, she comes right before the falling rogue, luckily. She says, "Well, I want to stand underneath him and ready my action so that on his turn, when he just about hits the ground, she casts Thunderwave, creates a 10-foot bubble and pushes him up, and he falls back down, only taking 10 feet of damage instead of the 90 feet.
Right.
At the moment, we're like, awesome, I'm not going to sit there and look up the rules and try and interpret exactly how it's supposed to work. I just like, awesome, good use of a spell. You're trying to, this is basically your only out, or otherwise this character is taking a shitload of falling damage and will probably fucking die. So just allow it to happen, and it goes off perfectly. He fails his save, so he gets pushed up. And it's just like this magical pillow. He gets some busted teeth from falling from 10 feet. Yeah. And in the background, like a fucking sack of rocks, the dragon falls on top of the warlock, who is channeling the command spell and holding the attention of the dragon. And we ended the session.
Nice. Did you explain all the characters that are in your game?
So we have a drow. Sorry, Cody. Sorry, no. You corrected me. So is it drow?
I believe it's drow.
Okay.
I believe it's drow, from what I understand.
So I have a drow druid.
Okay.
And I have a drow.
I believe it's D-Row.
I got D-Row bard. We've got a half-orc paladin who is in constant alignment shift. He's constantly on the verge of being an oath breaker, but he seems to always redeem himself by the end of the session. This one, not so much. There's definitely going to be some extra atonement. I think he's going to have to do. He backed out of the fight with the dragon and sought refuge in the cottage next to it as the rest were fighting. We had the Nyx, which was the forest gnome artificer, and then we have Del Nalo, which is the half drow, half human rogue, who is our rocket man.
Nice.
And then, so now we have Red, the cleric warlock, who is just a human warlock that he was gonna try and roll with.
Nice. Before I go on to explain what's going on in my game, what are your guys' thoughts on sticking to the rules versus just trying to allow the players to change stuff?
And that's exactly what I would like to talk about is after reading the rules on Thunderwave, it doesn't reset the fall distance. So rules as written, had I taken the time or known the rules, it would have just increased his fall distance from 90 feet by 10, and he would have fallen an extra d6 damage points as 100 feet. So,
right.
But thematically at the time, I don't really care too much about rules as written. If a character is going to create a cool, unique solution to a really bad problem,
it's called the rule of cool.
Yes, and that's something I've talked quite a bit at our table. Is I haven't read the Dungeon Master's Guide all the way through. I don't know all of the rules.
Well, I think you handled it correctly. It made sense to you when they described what they wanted to do. They came up with a clever idea of how to solve that situation. Yeah. Roll with it, yeah.
Yeah, and everyone rolled well through it. So, I mean, they had the idea. The dice agreed with them. and we'll find out consequences next game session.
I think the rules are there to help the game. Like if you have a question, that's the way I see it. You
Sure.
know, obviously there are rules for certain circumstances that always are the easiest, like attack opportunities, things like that. But when you don't know the rules, doesn't even if you knew the rules, it sounds like a more dramatic kind of situation than you just sticking to the rules and letting a character die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's something that they'll remember, and that's what we're doing. Is we're running games that you want your players to remember. You don't
Right.
want to sit there and tell them, "Well, no, that's not what the rule says." I mean, the rules have their place, you know, before anyone like freaks out and is like, "No, you got to stick to the rules." But if you're such a rules Nazi and you keep to that, a lot of times you're going to start losing players. in
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
opinion. So,
Yeah, no, all of the players were super happy with how the game turned out. You know, they were, I believe the word epic was used. We had quite the high point that we ended on, and it would have been totally the opposite had I let the character, you know, just fucking splat into the ground, and you're still low enough in level that at that height you would have just died
yeah.
over and over several
Well,
times.
show me the rule for sphincter grapple as well. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
A strength. He
Yeah.
practices Kegels twice
Yeah.
a day in his slumber.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got advantage
Yeah.
on strength checks.
All right, so our first podcast, I didn't really talk about my game because we were in the middle of playing again, and I had skipped a week. So in our game, it's similar to what Cody was talking about. Where me and Cody and a couple other people that I know are playing all in the same world, relatively around the same time with different events happening. It's kind of cool. We can talk to each other and we can add different stuff. Like Cody added pretty much most of the gods. I think I only added like 2 or 3 of the gods. But some of the gods are found throughout the world, and some of them aren't. In our game, the last game prior to this one, actually, I might even go further back than that. So our game was a little bit more unique. I was running 2 games at one point, and it was our Tattoo Studio game, which was 4 of us, I believe. So
And
we
that's
had
Undead Ink Studios for
yeah,
those who don't
that's
know.
Undead Ink Studios.
Go get your
you-
tattoos.
If you're in Spokane, Washington. So we were playing the shop game, and the shop game consisted of all the artists. It was a really cool, like, way for us all kind of connect and build kind of like a little bit of
It's a
relationship.
team-building
Yeah, it was
exercise.
definitely, yeah, it was actually really fun. So we had a tiefling, we had a cleric. Well, I think the tiefling was a rogue. We had a dwarf cleric. We had a barbarian, Goliath. We had a dragonborn paladin. Yeah. Most of the player. Oh, and then a Tortle druid, I think he was. And it was really fun. The problem was they didn't really show up as much. So I started another game, and I invited a few people, and then they asked if some other people could join. So our game ended up being pretty large. There's 7 players. So far, it's ran pretty well. So what I tried to do in this game is I ran both games parallel at the same time. Things that they were doing were affecting each party. Eventually, when the shop game ended, I kind of actually brought over a couple of items to the bigger game, introduced them in a different way. There's a box that's kind of connected between 2 boxes, and so they ended up with a couple items. And when we started this big group, not everyone could make it. When we kept having problems with scheduling, so we just got really tired of it. So we were like, okay, let's do this. Let's break this big group into 2 groups, and then we'll introduce both groups together. So what I did is I had one group start, and then I had another group start, and then we had 2 players actually join our group. And the way it's brought it together is we had them bring them together inside this like old mage temple, where there's 4 doors, and each of them kind of came through a door at the same time. And there was some time fuckery, I guess. if I
Sure,
would say.
you had a time
Yeah.
element to it.
There was a time elemental actually hiding inside there.
Oh, cool.
So he kind of helped that out. Yeah. So I'll jump ahead to our game that we're in right now. They had talked to this wizard who's been introduced, and a bunch of them. They play in a continent called Fairthorn. Fairthorn is connected to the rest of the continent where it leads into the Citadel, where the actual emperor of the whole kind of world resides, and he had just passed away, and they don't know what had happened. And so everything was on lockdown, and so they weren't sure what they wanted to do. They couldn't get through the passages, so they're kind of stuck in this city called Eastgate, which is kind of a harbor. It's like the largest harbor. So in that world, I wanted to try to do a bunch of quests in there. So I introduced about, I would say, almost 20 different NPCs.
Holy cow.
Different merchants that offer different stuff. There's also the council who run the town. And they're actually about to leave. They've decided after unknown amount of years of controlling this town, they're going to move on to something else. And they haven't even described exactly what they're moving on to. But they were talking to a wizard, and this wizard tells them, like, there's some bad stuff going on. I can feel this dark power from the north. Can you guys go check it out for me? I'll pay you for it. So they left, and they got to the first little town. It's called Rayen, and they kind of gathered some more supplies, and they continued upwards to Black Hollow. So one of the worst things that I think I have is I can't name cities and places very well. So there's black, dark magic coming from a town called Black Hollows. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Cliche. I love it.
Cliche. So they're going up there, and I had them roll for encounters, and the guy that was watching that night rolled, I believe, a 1.
Oops.
So I made an encounter, which ended up becoming part of the town, or part of the story, I mean. And so what it was is there was 3 caravan or wagons coming down in a caravan, and they tried stopping them and talking to them, and they were the guards weren't really talking and reacting. So the rogue snuck in the back, and he checked to see,
Cody.
to see what was going on, and he could see a bunch of people chained up. And so he actually started releasing them, and he's like, I need to let everyone else know. So he yells out and gets everyone involved. Everyone fights them. They knock out one of the guards. They begin to unchain the rest of the prisoners. While others that are unchaining them, they begin to look at the prisoners, and they can see boils and pus and stuff coming off them. So they're like, oh shit, they back out, not knowing what to do. So they try to interrogate the guard, and what they realize is they strip the guard down of his armor, and he's got a giant crystal in his chest, and his eyes have rolled back, and he's just this husk, and he just keeps saying, head south, go to Eastgate. And so at that moment, the game ended. So we pick it up in the next game, and
Remember to vaccinate your player characters.
exactly.
Helps stop the spread of smallpox.
Yeah. Is that better?
Hello.
Okay. You can grab that knob and turn it up.
Oh my god.
That's your volume, so you can hear. So we ended the game, and then we started our next game, and I had set up all these encounters for 7 people, and that was our recent game. And so I was expecting 7 people, and 3 people couldn't make it. So this begins
Oh no.
a DM's worst nightmare, pretty much.
No
So
kidding.
you have all these encounters. Your party is halved. So even if you had 4 people and only 2 showed up, same idea. And you're like, okay, well, we'll just keep playing. So the 4 of them continue, or we start the game. And what I have to split up the party is, for the people that didn't make it, I had a creature come over and cast pretty much fear, just because it was so large and disgusting and shit. And what it was is this creature that had no eyes, and it's just like yelling, and it has these 4 dogs chained to it. And the dogs are pulling it towards the players, and he begins to chase them through the woods. And all the players get separated, and the 4 players that are there find each other, and they go, okay, well, we can't find the rest of the guys. Let's look for them. They don't see them.
Oh,
okay,
cool.
Let's head to the town.
That's a fun way to do it.
Yeah, so
Makes
they head to
sense.
the town, and they check things out, and there's no people anywhere. And so there's a road leading to the town square, and then from the town square leads to the port, where there's 3 boats they can see. And then the other road leads up to a manor, so they decide to go to the town center and there they find possibly majority of the people from the town. There's this giant tree, and the tree is actually not a tree. It's a bunch of bodies that have been piled up into tree form. So they decide to go to the docks first, and they go to the docks, and they ready a boat, and then they decide to go to the manor, and they go to the manor. And in this manor, I had produced, I don't know, not too many this time, maybe 6 different little diary notes and stuff of like who that creature was that they ran into in the woods. There's some necromancers doing stuff in this manor, who they are, what happened to the people. So they bust in. One of the players is playing his character correctly. He's really pissed. He wants, justice for these people. So he kicks open the door, kicks open the next door. There's a necromancer in there. And so I had this fighting.
Surprise!
Yeah. He was talking to 2 shady creatures or figures, and they couldn't figure out what it was because they disappeared. Almost kind of like the whole Harry Potter smoky dudes that fly off,
Oh, yeah.
And so he sees them, and this dude's wearing like full like bone armor, but it's like shifting and stuff. And there's all these dead bodies all over the ground, and then it's in a big ballroom. So what I did is I had him raise the dead. All these bodies begin to float in the air, and they begin to dance with each other, and their legs have blades on them. So the players have to dodge these dancers as they're swinging their legs randomly at them.
Oh my!
And then fight this guy, and this guy had a scythe that if he hit them, it would drain 1 point of Constitution possibly. They had to do, of exhaustion. It would add a point of exhaustion. They had to do a Constitution save to make sure they didn't get it.
Nice.
One guy goes down, passes out. A bunch of them take exhaustion, but they kill him. And then this is another part where it's not the players, it's just the circumstance of not everyone showed up. It was kind of a hard fight, and so they're like, fuck this, we're leaving.
Yeah.
And so I had 4 other encounters in this manor.
Oh, shit.
And so they go downtown to that town, kind of rest up. These creatures come looking for them, so they avoid them, get on the boat, take off south, stop off at Rayin, a small town, warn the people. 3 of the players take off on horses south to go to Eastgate to warn them, and then 1 player decides to stay, which is actually part of what's going to happen coming up. Similar to your character, he's going to switch characters.
Nice.
He's actually going to go back to, he's a player that played in the original game I was talking about, where it's the shop game, and then also this one. So I don't know if he likes either one better.
Is this player handsome?
He is quite handsome, actually. Yeah. But he's going to bring in the dwarf into this game, which is interesting because there's different things that he's already done and people he's encountered and stuff like that.
Sure, he's got a history to him.
Yeah, so where we left off is they've warned this town. They've split up. I've got 3 other players still to either RP through writing to try to get them caught up, or just write a story and say, this is what happened to your character, this is what you saw.
You wake up naked and afraid in a forest,
Yeah.
all alone. It's every
Yeah, so-
Discovery Channel ever.
I guess that's like the thing that I'm trying to decide what to do is like, not only that, this is only I believe our 3rd game with that group, 3rd or 4th maybe,
Sure.
coming up, and already it's heading into the territory of a large battle. These necromancers are coming down with these plague people. They're going to hit this small town. I don't know
Just
if they're
do it.
going to...
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to resurrect this small town before they head to the big city. The council, the player that's playing the dwarf already knows this. He called it. The council is pretty much a group of like old vampires that have been watching over this town, and they've decided that they want to move on and they're no longer interested. So it'll be interesting to see like, what do these players do? How are they going to convince these people to stay and help defend the city, or if they're going to at all?
Right.
Are they going to try to just warn the city to evacuate? There's a couple of events that I have going on that I'm not sure how to introduce it, and I don't even know if I want to have a big battle already, or if I'm going to kind of steer this a different direction.
Sure. So you're quite undecided where you're headed.
Yeah, and our game is next Tuesday, so I have a little bit less than a week to kind of decide. I mean, I guess I would put the question to you guys, like, what would you guys do, like, at this point? There's a lot of factors. I've got
So
two separate groups separated.
Yep.
I've got,
and what worries me the most is you have a couple players that didn't show up for one session,
exactly.
and
Yeah.
we all know that chains into other sessions.
Yep.
It's very hard to recover from
Yep.
a low census session. So I myself would be definitely gun shy to create encounters after having the ones you created. You
Right.
know, you're like, oh shit, you got to either tone it down or you got to modify it on the fly.
Right.
So I don't know.
So the players I have now, I'll
Yeah.
go over that too, is, so we're going to have a dwarf introduce himself. He's going to be a cleric. To the group of 3 guys that are riding south. And that part of that group is a dwarf barbarian. I've got a girl, half warlock, half cleric. And I've got a rogue. Very traditional rogue too.
Sure.
And then the people that are lost still in the woods, I believe he's a sorcerer. I've got a druid and I've got a monk. So
your worlds have always been very gritty and edgy and not
Yeah.
your typical high fantasy worlds. Yours, the games I've played in and heard about, it's very not so much cutthroat, maybe the word for it, but actions have severe consequences in your world.
I agree with that. I think the game that we played, and I'm not defending myself, I think that when I ran a game with you, I think that might have been a bad game for you to introduce into running games, because I kind of have gone back to more high fantasy. I definitely would
Sure.
say, like, my games are unforgiving if you play like
That's
an
the word I
idiot.
was looking for.
Yeah.
Unforgiving. Yeah.
Yeah, the one that you're talking about, definitely. I mean, that was everything you said, more gritty. It was more cutthroat.
Sure. You don't
but
just
that was
randomly
also-
drink blue potions either.
Yeah, you become the Iceman on the band. But I think in that game, what was going on is we had played a bunch of games together, the other guys, and I was like, you guys want to try something harder where it's like you're not going to walk into, I don't know, you're not going to walk into a cave and kill 50 fucking goblins.
Right.
You're going to walk into a cave and there might be 10 goblins, but 2 of them might equal your level versus,
Sure. Okay.
you know, it's kind of like the idea of, I think it's Rogue Trader kind of plays that way,
Okay.
where it's like on the same scale.
More
so like
more
you're fighting,
elite guys.
yeah, maybe just the fact that if you come across a human, they're also just going to be also as strong as you. You know
Sure.
what I mean?
Sure.
You're not. I know it dumbs down the idea of being a hero. I understand that, but it
But
also
it humanizes it again, though.
yeah, totally, yeah.
It gives that element of I'm not just this amazing adventuring god. I'm
Yeah.
still just Joe, but I've got a cool fucking sword.
Yeah. Just because we're on the topic, I'll talk about my game first, and then we'll go back around. We'll start off again with Cody, and then go to Matt. But I guess I would say, if you guys were in my point of view, or maybe some tips that you guys could give me and anyone listening, like, what would you guys do in this circumstance of, do you think it would be easier if I just write what these 3 characters that are still lost in the woods do, or if I should go through the whole RPing through Facebook of, like, what are they doing?
I think that probably the easiest way to do it would be to just have a quick discussion with them, gather them together, and be like, what did you guys do? Like, I don't think you need to RP out the whole thing, unless you
Right.
want to.
Right.
That's a total option. But you could be like, okay, so this is what happened. This is where you guys are going to end up. Because you could just say they started doubling back to Eastgate because they couldn't find the rest of the party.
Right.
And that way they could crash into each other somehow. But yeah, I would just do a quick, what did you guys do in this time? And maybe you can describe kind of what happened, and you could just do like a quick 10-15 minute recap with them. Maybe have them come a little early to the session if they're able to, and discuss it with them before the session starts.
Do that, except if somebody wants to do a little more, then do the RP through chat or Facebook or something. But
Yep.
yeah, don't reward the people who didn't show up with
Oh, I
extra
agree.
content.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
If they can't show up for it, don't give them a session for it.
Yeah.
So catch them up real quick. They lost out on whatever social experience and combat experience. And
Right.
the players might have, the players who did show up might have a negative outlook on them because they definitely could have used them in their time of need and they were nowhere to be found. So there might be table tension between characters possible as well. But yeah, I don't know that I would go out of your way to make more content for them when you've done it once before.
Sure. No, that actually, what you just said totally resonated with me, is the idea of, like, not creating an adventure for them. Because that's originally what I was thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys can't show up, then you guys don't get to enjoy the in-depth of it, you know.
Yep.
I think that I'm going to introduce the dwarf to that group. I think it's just easier. And then
Maybe they find him in the woods.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And then I think that what would you guys do? Because I just don't feel like I love all the players playing. I love all the characters they're doing. I like the background some of them are creating. I love all that stuff. But I just don't think that they've earned a big battle yet. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if it goes already turn forward to a big battle,
Sure.
like what's above that next?
Sure, so-
you know? If all the stakes are on turn 4 and they win or lose, what is the motivation to keep going? You know what I mean?
So throw suspense in there. You don't have the big bad guy. He doesn't have to die the first time you throw him out to the group. There's all sorts of ways to extend the life of a big bad guy. I don't know. I guess it all depends on the pace and if where the characters are at in a story. It sounds like they're pushing through the necromancer. So the big bad guy. You're probably looking at the 9th necromancer.
So the big bad guy, I already have like a tier system of all the bad guys, and the necromancers aren't really a big bad guy. They're almost like just a group of guys. So do you have anything input on that? Or?
On the not wanting to climax too quick.
Right.
Something I'm expert in. But as far as the big battle,
Rimshot.
I don't know how attached you are to the city if you have lots of plans for Eastgate or
Right.
not. But it could be a situation where this undead horde or whatever it is overruns Eastgate and they have to flee from it, which kind of sets up something for much further down the road when they are strong enough to deal with what's coming.
Sure. So all they've really done so far is like kill a few things here and there. I think what I'm trying to get to is just like, I don't feel like there's that big, huge climatic like narrative of like,
Sure.
yeah, they've done
The
all
arc,
these things. Yeah. And I think part of it's missed because of the fact that players hadn't shown up, and so they weren't able to invest this manner and read all these notes that I had created. And I have a couple of different ways that I'm going to introduce those same notes and stuff like that.
But
I
is
think-
the story ready for the big bad guy?
So that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's even ready for
Yeah.
this big battle. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I'm going to run across the scenario that I think I'm going to probably play out is the players, and hopefully this doesn't ruin it too much for you because you're in my game, Cody, is I'm going to have these players show up to Eastgate. It's going to be right at the very beginning. I'm going to tell them like, hey, this might be a heavy RP session. You know, you're not going to probably be able to fight these people. You know, the players, I've got a few players that want to RP and I want to allow them to RP.
Sure.
Because the last couple of games it's been pushing heavy on just almost that high school mentality of just, oh, I'm just going to swing my axe or sword and just run blazing into people, and I don't care, and I'm not. It's fun to do that, but I think that we've all grown up into the sense of like, I want to have a little bit of like, why are you killing all these people?
Sure,
No,
for
versus
reason.
just like why? Yeah, because over time that just gets dumbed down, and why don't you just play a dungeon crawler
Right.
with no reason why you're in
Sure.
the dungeon? So I think actually what I'm going to probably end up doing is just having the players go there, and they're going to spend a bunch of time warning these people, and this horde never shows up, and then they are forced to figure out like what the fuck happened. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, instead of pushing that, and I don't want it to turn into like a Game of Thrones situation where
the story writers just get a story
Winter
block.
is coming.
winter is coming, and like 20 sessions down the road,
It never comes.
yeah, they instead of every game, it's taken them 3 days to make it one day or whatever,
Right.
and then all of a sudden they fucking run all the way down. Yeah, so I don't want it to be that, and I also don't want it to feel like we're just ripping off Game of Thrones either. So there's a lot of story stuff going on, which I wish I could. TR. Yeah. Which I wish I could talk about, and it's not even the fact that Cody's here. It's actually the fact that like we're gonna be posting this, and probably it's gonna be before these events happen. But I definitely want to see how it plays out. I want your guys' real opinion. Do you guys feel like that's me just ripping off the players of the situation, or
No, because you control the flow of information. You control the speed at which the world turns.
right?
Yeah, I feel like the pace is
So
in your control.
yeah,
Right.
no. If you don't feel that the story's there yet, I mean that should be the biggest thing. If the story's not there and you're looking for a big climax and something exciting, and what you want to deliver isn't going to be climactic or exciting, then
Right.
for God's sakes, don't do it, because your players are going to find it ungenuine just as you do. So wait for that timing, and it'll just come when it comes. Don't force
Which
it.
you also know
So,
about.
Just
Cody, right?
relax.
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So this army that's marching down on Eastgate,
Right.
was that planned, or did you have that happen because of something the players did?
Gonna need you to roll an insight check, sir.
Yeah.
You don't know
Yeah.
how you know that.
Because was that plan? Your plan is to have an army come to.
So actually, I'm
Eastgate?
gonna talk about like kind of what's going on, and I don't think this will ruin anything because it's kind of like really backstory stuff that once people like find a note or find a letter, it'll just add more flavor to what's going on in the game. But there's something going on. There's a drow that the players have encountered once already, and the drow like called their bluff. He in that temple that they were in when they all met, they finally made themselves to this room, and they opened the room, and inside the room there's two giants and this drow, and the drow's like, hey, like, you don't have to be here, you can leave, or you can try to fight me, and we'll see what happens. And so the players decide, yeah, let's back out, let's leave this situation, this guy's gonna mess us up. And so they left, and one of the things I did is when they looked in there, they could see all these items all over the place. There was like a skeleton guy sitting in a crown, and he had all these items.
All sorts
And
of
so-
shiny things.
Yeah, so when they left, they were like, well, let's go camp outside, and we'll come back when he's gone. So I was like, yeah, totally. So they went back in, and they were gone, but I would say all but like I think 3 items were gone. And those 3 items were the lowest level, items they could have gotten out of the situation. But there's something going on with this drow, and he's hired multiple groups, different sorcery schools, including the necromancers, to produce different spells for him that he's using for something. And he isn't even the big bad guy. He is just one of the bad guys that's kind of pulling these strings. So that's why I said that, like, these necromancers, I feel like if I have this big battle, it's not going to be as impactful, because once they find out, like, oh, these guys are nobodies, like, they're just a group of necromancers that were hired by this drow to create a spell.
Right.
And in return, he gave them that virus spell. So they're using it to try to pretty much kill people so that they can raise an army.
Sure. Sure.
Starting with this small town, they're moving to another bigger town, and then possibly to Eastgate, and possibly to other towns. Players don't know yet because they skipped out on that whole part of the story and decided to take a boat south. So the whole idea of them heading south was there, but I think it was sped up by the situation that a few players showed up, or a few heroes showed up in the town, and fucking killed one of their friends, and now they have to speed up their plans of what they're gonna do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So is it difficult juggling many world events at once?
I don't feel like it is. I think that like for this game, I hope that after this big story, I hope it goes on to other big stories. But this story is just one of, I hope, of other ones that
Sure.
are gonna happen.
Sure.
So I think once this game plays out, what I'm hoping to do is introduce more of that story of like all these little circumstances of us going to this temple. I guess like in my head, it plays out like I want players to be like, oh shit, like there's actually stuff going on. Like this little box that I have that I'm carrying around is actually like an actual important item.
Sure.
For example, in the shop game, they found a Warhammer, right? And they just thought nothing of it. It had these runes on it. They couldn't figure out what this Warhammer spells were on it. It had
Sure.
like a block on it. So that's how they originally met this wizard. And they asked him, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know what this is. I'm gonna send you guys to go find items so that you guys can figure out what this is." And to go find out, it's gonna be like insanely powerful item. I like that idea of like, I guess I'm kind of stealing that from Lord of the Rings, where
Sure.
it's like it's just a ring. You just
Right.
found just a ring.
Exactly. Yeah, it's nothing magical. It's worth
Yeah.
15 gold.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's that idea of like, hopefully we can get to a point where these puzzle pieces start coming together.
So
And
is
I
that how
wanna-
the players look at your items as, ooh, that's worth this much gold? Or do they look at them going,
as of right now, yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Right now, they had no problem giving that wizard that Warhammer. He's like, "Well, can I hold on to this?" And I think if they would have realized,
Magical
like, how,
study.
yeah,
Yes,
he's
I'm
like,
going
"I'm
to
gonna figure this out."
investigate.
Yeah, exactly. They would have, and even the players now are looking for items to identify what this Warhammer is,
Okay.
and they don't even know what the item is. The wizard's just been like, "Oh, I was given this item, and can you go out? I'll give you some gold. Go to this place. There's some scrolls, I believe there. Can you fetch them for me? Fetching quest." And they're not even questioning what this item is that he's trying.
They're just
to
like, fuck
identify.
yeah, how much are you going to pay us?
Yeah, exactly.
We're your dudes.
Yeah.
We got you.
Yeah.
Recovery team. Wizard standing on top of the hill. He-Man! As he holds the battle hammer. And
So, and then, I mean, I don't think it's that hard to control at all.
give him
Do
a bag
you,
of
do
holding.
you feel like it's hard to? The box is kind of a bag of holding, actually. Yeah.
Once they figure that out, they'll keep all of the fucking things.
Oh yeah.
All of them. Painstakingly.
Do you feel like it's hard to control or keep in your head all the things that are happening, all the events, or not just in my game, but in your game too?
No, I don't really. I have like a little bit of events, but I don't world build to the degree that I have things going on in crazy cities like that don't really interact with the characters. And then if the characters come into it, I kind of create on the fly.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I'm not really juggling like, oh, this event's going on over here and this event's going
Yeah.
on over here. I kind of am more narrow focused on just the party. I mean,
Sure.
obviously, I think that helps make a living world when things are happening. It's like, oh shit, I heard about that. I could have done. Like, I have characters. I really love to take characters, do something with them, and don't touch them for 6 months, and then do something with them. I
Yeah.
love to bring back reoccurring characters
Right.
that are like people forget about. Then you're like, did you?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
this
yeah.
guy is still pissed off at you.
Yeah.
But I don't really do a lot of like. So I do that kind of big thinking, but not so much like world event stuff. So
Yeah, I think that that's still big thinking. I mean, I think that's why I like, to me, having all those NPCs in that town aren't that big of a deal. And I think that most of those characters aren't even characters I created, right? So, my example is Joyce, who is Miss Spelled Moss Bottom or something, is her aunt. So how she was introduced is literally the party went to answer a call to go kill some wolves. And so on the fly, they go to this farm, and then on the fly, they're like, okay, we'll hang out here. We're just going to camp.
Your mic rotated.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep.
So they go to the farm, and the farmer's like, yeah, I'll pay you guys to kill these wolves. You know, they're coming by. So they're all right. We'll camp out. So they're kind of sitting there talking, and I could feel like the game kind of slowing down because they're not sure what to do while they're waiting for night to come. And so I was like, okay, you know, give me perception. So they're sitting there talking, and one of the guys sees through the party, and he's like, you can see a figure, and it's moving. And the figure gets closer, and it's a girl, and she's just covered in blood. And they're like, oh, fuck, let's go make sure what's going on. So they go over, and they talk to her, and she's like, oh, my brother got kidnapped, you know, this caravan got attacked, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, that's more important. Let's go take care of that. We can always come back and kill these wolves. So they go to find the wolves, and they find what attacked them. And the girl describes that her little brother was kidnapped. So they get to the caravan, and she described there was 3, and one of them's missing. So they follow the tracks, and they goes to a cave, and they find a bunch of goblins, and they kill the goblins. They get inside the cave further, and they actually find a bunch of wolves inside cages. So they're like, oh, whoa, like, these wolves must have came from here. Maybe these guys are sending these wolves to attack the farmers.
Sure.
So then they kill the wolves, and they continue onwards, and they find this giant orc, and they have busted all of their nut on all their spells, and they had nothing. And
blown their load,
yeah,
respectively.
and so they actually talk to him, and they're like, hey, he's like, well, if you can open this door, I'll let this little boy go. And so they're like, okay. So they open the door for him, and they take the kid and bring her back, and they get her back to the town, and they tell the farmer, like, oh, like, these wolves must have came from this place. All of that wasn't made up. Like,
Right.
I had no pre-planned the wolves came from this cave. I had no pre-planned with this girl. So later, in another game, they were like, hey, let's go to that little girl's house. Well, she's not a little girl, but she's like a girl. And so they go there, and they meet the aunt, because I had mentioned, oh, she's going to go live with her aunt. Well, that's a whole made-up character.
Yeah.
And then they find out, I threw in that this aunt is an accountant, and she's working with the council, and so the council shows up and threatens her and then leaves. And then now it's created this character from a made-up character where this lady is connected to the council. They want to know about the council. They want to know where this little girl, how she plays into it, what happened to her brother, because when they show up, the brother is no longer in the house.
Characters are more invested in a character you've put zero thought into.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah. I've played games of yours, Cody, where that's happened before, you know, where it spins out almost, I wouldn't even say it's out of control. It's controlled chaos. It's like this character becomes a branch off onto this character and becomes this story.
Yep. They imprint themselves into the story.
Yeah. And I think that most of my merchants, most of my people in it are like that. Like the wizard originally in the town, Forsec, he originally was just a little side quest where they were like, oh, let's go find some magical items. So they go in, and they're talking to this guy, and this guy's acting really weird. And they had talked to someone before where it's like, oh, this guy's the smartest person in the world, and this guy's sounding like an idiot. And so the dwarf's like, I think there's something going on here. So he kind of, I can't remember exactly what you did, but he realized, like, this is not the wizard. And so they end up killing these 2 bandits, and the wizard's tied up in the back. And so this guy was trying to pretend like he was the wizard, you know? And so...
Yeah, I think I started questioning him, or
Yeah.
I did some like insight, and I gathered that he didn't really know what he was talking about.
Give
He
me
was
a
just making
display
stuff.
of your
Yeah.
magical
Yeah.
abilities.
Yeah.
So I think we pushed him far enough to the point where it was pretty obvious, and then we're like, okay, what's going on?
And I think that's like what creates really good NPCs, though.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean?
The
'Cause, like,
spontaneity of it.
yeah, like right now, and I think it's maybe just because like I'm a big Excel fan. I like built an Excel sheet that has characters, and then I have players, and I actually mark down which players have met these NPCs.
Oh, fun. You
So
made
that-
a matrix for it.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's
So that
a
way-
great idea. I'm doing that
Oh, yeah.
tonight.
So that way I
love
can be like, the reason I did that is because recently in one of our games I was like, because Cody was playing 2 characters, I was like, did this character meet this character? And he's like, well, yeah, but they don't have that deep relationship like my other character.
Ooh, that's difficult.
Yeah. So,
That's cool. You make little comment notes in each little category, and you can go to a different field.
this
where it
one's
has
a little
some
bit
flavor
easier.
text.
Yeah, this one's a little easier. It's just the character, and if
Sure.
they've met them, it just has the players. And
I'm thinking
next.
10 steps
Yeah.
beyond that.
I mean,
I don't do small ideas. I do
No.
really dumb, overcomplicated ideas that never happen.
Yeah. we made the mistake of having a drink, and me and Cody don't drink, so I completely lost where originally I was talking about this. But back to what I was saying is like, I don't think it's as hard as people make it out to be to control a lot of events, because those are tons of little events,
Sure.
tons of little events,
Sure.
and that players can go back and they can be like, oh yeah, I remember how I even met this player.
Right.
I remember how I met this or not player, met this NPC, and I guess like in my games, not in my games. I'm not gonna say that in this game, because all my other games I don't feel like I controlled and added as much NPCs. I really want to try to build in this game the urgency, and that's also why I don't want to attack the city. I want players to, when the city finally gets attacked, I want them to feel something when NPCs who aren't played by players start going down.
Sure.
Or they're like, I want to see what happened to this character.
Sure.
I want to see where this example, the dwarf has been spending 6 sessions trying to court an NPC.
Oh yeah.
And she has a daughter, and so she's like kind of off-standish because she doesn't want to introduce like another person to her daughter's life. And what's going to happen if the daughter or her go down? You know what I mean?
Right.
You spend
Hopefully something amazing in the character happens.
Yeah, totally.
You know, that's how patrons come about, and that's how people, make really character-changing moment. That's an opportunity for a character to have a character-changing moment. Hard alignment shift, if you believe in that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Just opportunity for extreme shifts is really cool.
So I'm not going to go too deep into this, but just why it's on my mind because of what you said. I did have a situation in a game, which this is the way I like to do it, but it doesn't really work all the time. I'm not a huge believer in dual classing unless there's a really good story reason for you to dual class. And I had a fighter who ended up pulling a warlock patron because of an event in a game. He wasn't statted to be a warlock. It was no benefit for him to become a warlock, but he went down that path because it made sense story-wise.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Actually,
That's the only reason you should multi-class. I love it.
I agree.
Yeah, no, I think, and it's nothing against my player who's playing half cleric, half warlock. He built that character before, yes, which is fine.
Oh, absolutely.
I think you should go down that story a little bit. I mean, we have time. Like, if you want to explain what happened to that character, because this is a great example for anyone else that's listening. If you agree with us, I think everyone, for the most part, I mean, it kind of, I don't think it sucks. There's things that we're not going to agree on, but we seem to agree on a lot of stuff. I personally don't like the idea of when you tell someone to level and they just go, oh, I level and I get all these abilities. Well, how'd you learn that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're out in the fucking desert. Like,
All
how
my
did you learn
characters were asking, hey, we
Yeah.
killed the dragon. Did we level up?
Yeah, I hate that question.
Yeah. I
Fuck
hate that
no,
question, yeah.
you just lost a level.
I mean,
So go ahead and
get
explain
it.
that.
I'll give like a quick kind of rundown on what happened because it's a whole long story. But basically, it was a long-term campaign. We had a fighter who had been going through these adventures, and people had been dying all around him. Wherever they went, whether it was them killing people or monsters killing people, people were just dying.
Death followed.
So they
them.
started seeing death.
Mm-hmm.
And like they'd see like the shadow of a figure and it'd kind of disappear and stuff, and it just kind of was this lingering soul around them. And so this one time, this player, after they had lost a core member of the group, he kind of went out and he started talking to himself. He's like, I know you're here, or whatever. He went to the site where his friend died.
Yeah.
And he's like, who are you? What are you doing?
Tries
Or whatever.
communicating
Yeah,
with the
communicating.
spirits.
So I wasn't expecting this at all.
Sure.
I was like, I had some rough ideas what I was going to do with this spirit entity or whatever. Is mostly just like this cool little blip of a character. I didn't have big plans for it, but so he started talking to him like, shit, okay, so we're going to do a little RP outside game.
Yep.
You just we'll text back and forth
Yep.
kind of what happened because
Love
it's not
it.
really involving the party.
Sure. Exactly. It's a one-on-one little session. The character's doing that while the others are
Yeah.
occupied.
So he gets a hold of the spirit shows up and it tells him is like wherever you go, death follows. Like you're basically agents of mine to a degree or whatever. Like I'm interested in what you guys are doing. I'm keeping an eye on you. He's like, I don't want people to die everywhere I'm going. I don't want my friends to die. And so the spirit, which at first it was just going to be death, and then I kind of warped it a little bit into the Raven Queen. on
Okay.
the fly,
Sure.
which is similar. She guides the spirits of the dead and stuff.
That's a little more flavorful
Yeah,
than death shows up.
Exactly.
But yeah, sure.
So, I had this cloaked figure suddenly burst into these like feathers and stuff, and then like appear as this porcelain mask.
That's cool.
Which the Raven Queen, a lot of what I used from her, I stole from Critical Role, the way Matt played her, because one of the characters in his old game was a patron of the Raven Queen.
Fun. Okay, cool.
But basically, I was like, well, I can help you to make sure that your friends don't ever fall under my demise or whatever,
And there's the cheese on the stick.
Yep. So he agreed to work for her, be an agent of hers.
Hook,
And so I
line,
had a
and
level
sinker.
right there. I said,
Right.
you level,
Yep.
take a level Warlock,
Yep.
and we'll figure out when the rest of them level. I ended up giving him a boon because his charisma was dismal, and it was not going to work for him.
Right.
I mean, he didn't even prereq
It
to
was
get
dump
into
stat.
Warlock.
Yeah, it didn't have any-
His
yeah.
charisma was dismal.
Garbage.
So he became an agent of the Raven Queen, and she gave him some missions that he had to do, and if he wasn't following them, she was going to strip the power that she gave him.
Yep.
And it even happened at one point where he lost like 3 levels of his class, where he had to go around. He still had like 8 levels of fighter, so he
Yeah.
wasn't useless. But
Right.
yeah, we just kind of, and we'd have these like RP sessions back and forth that were really fun or whatever, that kind of described him going and talking to her in his dreams, her
Right.
visiting him.
That's
all
just
this
flavor,
information.
man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Soak it up.
Yeah. So that was a really cool way for a character to multi-class, because he had no plans to ever go into Warlock. It was
Right.
nothing he had planned at all.
And that's so our character. We Red, the human that appeared, the player whose character walked off and reappeared as the new one. She is a fallen cleric who is sold her soul to a patron god, and the patron requires a task from her. She doesn't have any spellcasting abilities. She's just a human housewife who had some minor medicine herbal skills, could be passed off as a basic cleric. And now this character is a level 3 warlock who doesn't have much of the stats for it. So it's kind of one of those things. It's like, okay, well, how does she spellcast? What does it look like? And he basically described it as, well, she's not herself casting. She's ripping through these planes. This portal appears, and the manifestation of her patron does all of these things, but she has to will it. Once she wills it, this portal opens up. She reaches through it, and boom, out she pulls a void bolt or something, and it burns her arm. She takes damage every time she does it, but it's just a really cool, flavorful way to explain the spell casting of the character. Really made it fun for everybody. But yeah, the multi-classing, nobody else has really asked or thought about multi-classing yet. They'll hit 4th level here pretty soon. And now that they all have their mainstays of their first class, I see them kind of wanting to branch out, and don't know how I'm going to approach it. We've done pretty good with the rule of cool so far, so I guess we'll just see what they come up with.
Are you getting pretty close to the end of your starter kit?
So I was thinking about that, and we just finished our 7th session, and that's putting us upwards of 40 hours of gameplay so far. And looking ahead, I've got 3, maybe 4 more sessions for this if the timing's right. But I could see it going all the way for another 5 sessions, going 12 sessions total. So for a starter box, we're going to get 60 plus hours.
Oh, yeah.
No,
And 3 to 4 months of gameplay, meeting twice a month, every second week we meet. So
You're looking to dive into the abyss after that?
yeah, we don't really quite know. We've all talked about, we all go through a portal and end up in 2049 Shadowrun, and you're all still your same personas, same type of characters, but you're just in a completely different.
So you're pretty open right now with what
Yeah. I don't have any plans. I try not to overthink it. I've just been doing less and less prep and just showing up and, again, knowing where we start, knowing where I want to end, and running with everything in between. This last session, not to break away, but we didn't do a battle map. After the previous session of battle map combat, just slowed everything down. Everyone was micro organizing all of their movements on the chessboard, and just felt very unauthentic. So this time I told everyone we're just going to do a theater of the mind when everyone was asking for all their miniatures and shit. And so, we're just going to describe it really well. And there's no way we could have done what we did with the dragon and everything else using miniatures on a battle map. Doing theater of the mind was the only way you can stab a dragon in the ass.
So I'm a fan of Theater of the Mind. It's hard to get older players that have been playing for a while to move away from the grid.
Right, because that's
There's
where you
been a-
start. You
yeah.
start with those maps.
There's been a couple times I've done Theater of the Minds and they're like, so where are we? And they start to like draw it up and like put figures down where they like are located to each other.
Yep.
I just found it easier. to
Yep,
just
they've
put
got
on a
this
map.
little mini map around them.
Yeah.
They just must know the
Yeah.
corridors they've been
Yeah.
down. Yeah, I could see that. So very, very lucky to have new people who have no concept of battle maps. So I'm hoping to break that.
Sometimes larger groups, it gets difficult to remember. Like, you kind of just have to roll with it. You have to be like, am I within 60 feet of this guy?
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. You want to be up close? Yep. I mean, you're going to get there.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think there's certain circumstances you can't even use a grid because, like, depending on the players, they might start a fight that you weren't even intending in the first place. You know,
Yeah.
They might go to a bar and just start fighting people, or, we had problems. It was when we were growing up for the main part, but we used to have problems where people would just start swinging at players,
Just walk by and randomly punch a random citizen.
Yeah, like fighting civilians, or like maybe a quest giver would give them a quest and they didn't like the quest and they would try to fight the quest giver.
Oh, fuck you. I want 100 gold, not 20.
Yeah, I think for the most part people have grown out of that. I feel definitely playing in Cody's games, I feel like definitely in my game there's probably more of the people that are a little bit more careless. Would you say that mostly? Because I feel like I can't even pick out anyone in your game that's just like, oh, I'm bored, I just want to kill something, I'm just going to start a fight.
Yeah, I don't really feel like I have that issue with this party. I think they respect enough of the work that I put in that they're not going to try to randomly
Just
kill
shit all
NPCs
over
for no
it.
reason.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone really in your party would do that either.
You don't think so?
Would just randomly start killing people?
I think
Well,
so.
okay. It depends. Are we
I
talking
think
about
too.
the game now, or are we talking about the game with the shop?
So the game with the shop, I think there was one player,
Yeah.
but I think even the game now there is. I think there's players
Possibly, yeah.
that would attack. I could see one player attacking randomly, just like getting bored, because it seems like every game we've had a fight, which is not bad. I'm not against having a fight in every game, but it's always been almost started by that person, or that person jumps right into it without thinking. I know I've talked about that before in our last session and stuff. So we're probably coming up to the end of this whole podcast for this today. We're sitting at an hour and almost 20 minutes. So I think what I'm going to leave it off with is maybe in my game, and then each of you guys kind of talk about maybe something that's going on in your game, and then maybe we can see how it resolves throughout between now and then.
I got some cliffhangers.
So mine isn't really the story. Mine is the players, because my game is 7 players. One of the things I'm going to implement is the day before, I'm going to get people to tell me if they're showing up or not. If they say they're not showing up, it might sound harsh, but I'm not going to let them come back into the game the next day. And if they decide they can't make it, something happens the day of, then that's fine. But it's more of, my problem is with these people dropping out, is I kept posting, hey, who's showing up, everyone's showing up. And then the guy that said originally a week before that wasn't showed up, and then 3 other people dropped out.
Right.
So even the guy that was saying he wasn't going to make it showed up, and then 3 people dropped out of the game.
Can't we all be adults and stick to our agreed upon
Yeah.
schedules? Fuck's sake.
And it's one of the things I was talking to Cody about is like, it's a letdown when I can't come play. So why can it not be a letdown when these people don't show up?
It's crushing.
And my other problem is I've got probably just like you guys, if you guys actually ask around and stuff. Maybe actually especially for you because you had a player come in the last game and you had a player come in the last game or the game before. Is I've got players that want to play and I've got players that want to come do guest spots. And if there's players that don't want to be there or they have too many things going on, we're adults. You can just tell me. It's not going to hurt my feelings. Just let me know so I'm not wasting my time.
So you can plan accordingly.
Exactly, and I can bring people in because that was the problem.
Yep. That would have been a prime opportunity.
Well, that was the problem is I had a player that was lined up to take that person's spot. And then he said he could make it. So I told that person, hey, sorry, you can't make it this week. And then 3 people dropped out. And so the person that was going to come in and fill that spot had already made plans. So I was still down 3 people where I could have been down just 2.
That's juggling a lot.
Yeah. And I just want people that are going to be consistent.
Yeah,
Like I said,
absolutely.
it's summertime. I'm expecting a lot of people are going to start dropping in and out. What about you? Anything that's coming up that you're going to deal with inside game or just with your party itself?
So inside my game, I have one character, the Druid. So this is a character that was made a few sessions ago after his character had perished, his previous character. So he made a new character. We kind of worked on his backstory. He kind of has this mysterious backstory that no one has really paid too much attention to. I don't think they have any kind of ideas what's going on with it.
Sure.
But when he first showed up, he was found in the infirmary, and he had been out in the desert and like been attacked by something, mauled, and he doesn't really remember what happened. And he kind of wakes up. He's got this gnarly scar across his chest that didn't heal and stuff. So it's been about a month since that's happened in game, so he's been attacked by a lycanthrope. By a Raraland,
okay.
which no one in the party has any clue about it because we haven't mentioned it since day 1.
Nice.
But I'm trying to think of a way to do his transformation, but still try to leave some mystery into it. Like I'm hoping like he goes on watch by himself one time.
Yep.
And then they wake up and like
Find
part
some
of the thing is
shreds
like
of
torn
clothes.
apart.
Yeah.
And he's missing, and they
Yeah.
find him like unconscious down
Naked in the
way.
woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they might figure out at that point what's going on. Or
Sure.
something, maybe not. But I'm trying to figure out a good way to do his transformation that's not to the point where he transforms and attacks the party and they have to fight, and that's whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to full blown. I'm hoping for a slow rollout on it. but
Sure.
I'm not really sure how to go about it.
Not looking for a Penny Dreadful where they lock him in a cage with somebody else
Yeah.
and say, when 2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
Do you guys have
Midnight will decide.
any idea on how to roll something like that out, or points of advice?
I think leave it to the player. Don't. Because it's his story. It's his character. Give him, I think, the opportunity to go out because it's a full moon lycanthrope. So it's not going to happen all the time. The conditions are going to have to be right.
Well, he doesn't even know yet. That he's,
Even better.
the player knows.
Yeah.
The character doesn't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
So then it's totally at your discretion. So be ready just to drop that ball whenever you want when the opportunity's there. When he's out walking around at full moon and the cloud coverage breaks, he's not assuming something, then when it happens type of a deal. I wouldn't think too hard about it.
I would plan it out in the sense of like it's gonna happen this night. Like say, hey, you could even throw it out there like, oh, like, you guys know that tonight's gonna be a full moon or whatever.
Oh yeah, definitely
weird
set
shit
that up.
happens. Weird shit
Yeah.
happens. Blah,
Allude
blah.
to it.
Yeah, and then see where the players end up at that moment. So like exactly, like if they're in the middle of a battle and you're like, oh shit, at this point it would be full moon, highest point in the sky, your character begins to lose control and leaves the fight or does something, or even in a town, because then you have to force the players to be like, oh shit, like this is still our friend. This
Can
is
we
still our
control
friend.
him? Do
we
we?
gotta control him. We gotta hide this situation. We gotta
Right.
get him out of the town or whatever. That's the way I would play it, because then you're still playing it to chance and you're not planning everything.
Yep.
I think that would even be funner.
Don't script it out.
It'd be more fun for yourself too.
Yeah.
Like even throw down like on your phone or something a timer and be like in an hour or two, it's gonna happen no matter what's going
There
on.
you
You
go.
know?
And then the other kind of thing going on in my campaign right now that I'm kind of mulling over in my brain. So I know they're most likely we're about to have some ship travel, and I'm trying to find a good way. I don't like ship travel that's like, okay, so you get on this boat and a couple months pass and you land in this port.
Right.
I actually
Nobody likes fast travel.
Yeah, I would love it to stretch out. I'd love it to stretch out 4, 5, 6 sessions.
Be a
before
whole
they
campaign
get
of just
there.
boat
Yeah.
travel. Yeah.
Because it's going to take like a month's time.
Sure,
to
you could
where they're
find a
going.
random island.
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking. I was thinking about having little ports here and there that they stop at and trying to figure out some different encounters to
Good
make
shit.
ship travel.
Every
work.
time they stop, that could be easily another 2 or 3 sessions
Yeah.
added on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I would even run that as like going to sleep counter, right?
Yeah.
So every day, like you decide as the DM where on a chart either you make or in your brain of an encounter happening based on what are these players' experience even being on a boat. You know, I know for myself because I play on that game, my character has no experience, so he has nothing to add. And then maybe you have one that's been on a boat, but he's like never done everything, you know.
Yeah.
And you kind of add that up in your head, and you go, okay, whoever's helming most of this role, okay, like at night, you know, the winds take over, and you guys wake up on a sandy shore.
Well, I imagine so. Most of the party is going to be. These are first of all, they don't have the money for it. Second of all, these are not the people that are just go buy a boat and get on it and try to sell it themselves.
Right.
They're going to be
Some work
a crewed
on-
ship that they're
Yeah.
going to be passengers.
I heard you
Right,
have a
right.
Goliath who can pilot an oar pretty well.
No.
Is he a little
Worst case
seasick?
scenario.
Nah, man, he was on a boat. He just rode as a passenger, so
No.
he doesn't know any of that.
But
What
that's kind of what's going on in mine.
Nice. Yeah, those are two good things. I'm interested to see what happens, not only as a player, just as find out what happens when we talk again. What about yourself, man?
So the characters picked up a little NPC a couple sessions ago, probably 4 or 5 sessions ago. The half-orc Mainomai convinced a mom of a halfling in Phandalin to go on an adventure with them, to go check out the bandit lair, but he was to come back home right away. Well, that never happened. He went through the whole encounter with them, and basically one thing led to another, and we're a week or so into it, and he's still traveling with them. He's acquired a +1 sword that the group has generously given him, so that's kind of helped his little halfling ego. He thinks he's a big bad adventure. The half orc is strong enough, and it wouldn't encumber him very much to carry around a halfling child on his shoulder. So the character basically said, wherever I go, just assume that this NPC is saddled on my backpack, going with me wherever I go. Awesome. I got it. Careful where you walk. So he's done pretty well. He hasn't ended up in too much trouble, just your typical kid shit. But as this session, they get to the top of the hill overlooking the orc encampment at the very beginning of the session. The half orc Mainomai tells Carp, the little boy, that you need to stay here, stay by this tree, keep my horse ready to go, and give him the whistle signal to come running on in. But you need to stay out of trouble here. And the kid is a little taken aback by it. He had this awesome sword now, and he was ready to go into combat and go be a real adventurer. Fast forward to later, the new character, Red, the human woman, tells the half-orc that the halfling little boy would be better off in her company and her command, because Mainomai is always in the combat in the thick of things, and it'd just be a safer position for Carp to be on the back lines with the spellcaster in the back. And begrudgingly, he agrees. The rest of the group kind of nods him in that direction. Says, yeah, you probably a good idea. So Red tells me, the DM, that okay, well, wherever I go, this boy comes with me as well. Well, if we do remember, that same Warlock was the one who also told the dragon to stop. And when the dragon fell and seemingly landed upon Red, nobody was none the wiser, and that's where the boy was at the same time. So we ended right there, and I've got a couple different directions that I want to take it. Thunderwave is an out for the boy. He might have been subjected to the forces and been pushed out of the way just in time. But if that were to happen, then the Warlock would have had to make a Constitution check as well and make sure she doesn't get pushed out of the way. And just too much rule confusion. So I've been trying to kill this character for quite a while, so I might just squish him.
So you want this NPC dead?
Only in the manner in that it would take a heavy hit on the half-orc's character itself.
Yeah, it's gonna add drama to the game.
Exactly.
It's gonna add depth to the game.
Yeah.
You have a lost character.
Yep.
And it's not even a player.
And it's an NPC that's not even in the book anywhere. It's something that I just created out of nowhere, and the characters have latched onto the idea. And he's just been this recurring Urkel character in the background, and he's found himself in a very precarious place.
Yeah.
So on one hand, he could dodge roll out of the way, he could be shoved out of the way, or he could just be drove into the ground. There's also some other opportunities there with the Warlock and her patron god. We don't know what happens to her as well. All we know is the dragon fell on top of the two. And the thunder wave had saved the rogue falling from the sky, and that's where we ended off. So there's quite the suspense that needs to be tied up at the beginning of the next session.
So can I make a recommendation for this
Yes.
halfling?
Oh, yeah.
Or this, it's a halfling boy, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, you could kill it. Let's go add some suspense and stuff. I feel like he's a tool, though, in your toolbox right now if you keep him alive.
Yep.
Maybe he breaks his arm or something like that, or the warlock covers him up and protects him in some
Sure.
way. I think it's something, I don't know what you have planned for down the road, but it's a tool where if you want to make a memorable villain, have him take that boy or do something to that boy, because that's going to make them hate that character.
Yeah.
Killing by a dragon that's already dead isn't
Sure.
going to really do much for you,
Right.
story-wise.
Are you,
I mean,
are
it
you
kills the
playing out
boy.
that the dragon is dead?
Yes, the dragon has succumbed to its wounds. It took like 60 some odd points of falling damage, and it was well beyond. It was a mortal fall that killed it.
Yeah.
You
No,
can even
I
have
agree.
the dragon have a mate. Oh, I don't know. But I think that if they're really attached to this character,
Oh yeah.
I feel like
It's a
there's
table.
a lot more you can do with it.
Oh yeah, no, and that's what I'm trying to figure out is, I want to kill it, but then they'll just look for the next thing to hire up.
yeah.
But keeping him around for ulterior motives is definitely is a
But
lot
I do
more
like the
fun.
idea of him being injured or something. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
it's your character, do whatever
Yep.
you want, but like, is show them that he is at risk with you
Right,
guys.
and they do have to return him to his mother.
Yeah.
Eventually. So
Oh, that's
Because
true, too.
because it's already been how long in the game that he's been with them? Just a week? Or?
game time, we're looking little over, maybe close to a 10-day.
Okay.
I mean,
So I agree with
the
Cody.
the speed at which this campaign moves is terribly slow, especially when you stretch it out over months of actual
Yeah.
sessions.
So have you guys gone to the ruined fortress yet?
Nope. Cragmont
Okay.
Castle, that's going to be next.
So inside the Wave Echo Cave
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, there's a wizard of some sort, right?
No, so that's inside the bandit lair.
Who's the big baddie in the Wave? Cave
Wave Echo Cave is the Black Spider. We don't.
Oh,
know.
yes.
We don't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
much about him yet.
So
He's simply the Black
What
Spider.
if you maybe when they go to that ruined fortress, what if the Black Spider's there and somehow he gets a hold of the kid and now
Father?
the kid is in Wave
Dad?
Echo? Maybe
I haven't
Yeah.
seen you in so long.
That'd be
I think
interesting.
that's a good idea, but it also might be just like too much. I would say I agree with keeping them alive, but I would almost go as simple as like keeping them alive, and then maybe like I don't know, bounty hunters. Because who does this mom know who you guys are, right?
Right.
Like you guys took this kid, and she's like, all right, I guess that's okay.
Well,
Like,
they
you guys are
they
kinda-
performed a healing service on her kid after he was mugged.
Right,
So they
you're-
performed the miracle and gained trust.
Sure, yeah, oh, you guys are heroes. Or
You're
whatever, I'll let you
trustworthy.
take- But I mean, as a parent, how long would you allow a bunch of random people to take your kid?
And that's
So-
where my druid, her
Yeah.
mental state is at. She's like, this is not okay, and all of you guys going along for it are fucked up.
I think it would be really fun to do what Cody said, but maybe like have some bounty hunters ambush them.
Mm-hmm.
They simple bounty hunters, they get killed or whatever, and make some kind of mock-up wanted poster that has your players on it, and they're looking for this boy, you know?
Kidnap.
Yeah, because in her mind it would be almost like they just took off with her, you know what I mean? And make it a little bit more simpler, because like, how do you go back to that town and explain now this whole town probably thinks they just took off?
Red brand propaganda.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So
Love
it's hour and 35 minutes, so we'll probably cut off there.
Yep.
So thank you for everyone that's been listening to us
We
rant
love all
about
12 of you.
DM stuff. We're going to try to be back every 2 weeks on Wednesday, and we're going to try to sneak in a couple podcasts in between each week when we can. Thanks again for listening to us. This was Avery.
Matt.
Chicka chicka bang bang, Cody.
All right. Have a nice day.